In Philippians 2:4, in the CSB translation, Paul says everyone should look not to his own interests. Really? Is that what Paul really means? That we should not pay any attention to our own issues, our own interests? Only the interests of others? If you translate word for word, this CSB is a very good translation. It's exactly what the Greek words are saying. The problem is that it's very difficult to believe that that is what Paul means, that you can't be concerned about your own interests. Let's take a look at the Greek and then some of the different translations and how they handle that. In Greek, Philippians 2:4 does not start a new sentence, so its verb is a participle. English translations tend to start verse 4 as a new sentence, and so they treat it as an indicative form. Perfectly good thing to do. So it's not the things of yourselves, so your own interests, each of you should look. So each of you should not look at the things of yourself, your own interests, but, and then here's the key, there's a textual variant for kai, but also each of you, plural, the things of others. So if the kai is not original, Paul wrote, but each of you the things of others. If the kai is original, it's but also each of you understood, look at the things of others, the interests of others. So the first clue here is that the sentence it can't mean what it says. We are supposed to look after ourselves. The second clue is the text critical kai. Now, my guess is the kai is not original because I can see a reason for adding it, but I can't see a reason for removing it. In other words, I'm sure some scribe came along and said what I'm saying is that, this is really difficult. Well, but it's also you're supposed to be looking after the interests of others people. Look what some of the different translations do to deal with this issue. In the ESV, it's let each of you look not only to his own interests, but also to the interests of others. Is there any Greek behind only? No, there's not. The ESV translators added an English word that is not in the Greek. Now, you can argue that by saying, but also, the ala kai, that the only is implied. You can't have a but also if you don't have something that corresponds to it at the beginning of the sentence. So it's a legitimate translation, but it is adding. The word is, there is no Greek word behind only, and hence you see, once again, the problem of so-called literal translations, of which there is none. It's interesting, when you go to the NASB, they say do not merely, and they italicize it, which is their way of saying we're adding a word, perfectly legitimate thing to do. The NRSV, like the CSB, just says, let each of you look not to your own interests. The Net Bible gets around the issue with their footnotes, so each of you should be concerned not only, and the footnote says the word only is not in the Greek text, but it's implied by the ala kai, but as well. And the NLT, don't look out only for your own interests, what you would expect. Now, one of the interesting things to look at is how the NIV 84 is different from the NIV 2011. I really enjoy comparing multiple editions of translations, whether it's RSV to ESV or the NIV 84 to the NIV 11, because there are distinct changes that are made, and it's helpful to see what they changed. If you look at the 84, it's each of you should look not only, and that was changed in the 2011, not looking to your own interests. In other words, while the NIV 84 wanted to help you with the meaning by putting in only, the 2011 stuck a little closer to the words and let you figure out from context that while the words say not looking to your own interests, but what Paul means is not just your own interests. Interestingly, too, the 2011 doesn't start a new sentence at verse 4, and so it can keep the participle. So what's the point? Well, the point is, I think, that you have to be careful at assuming there's always a Greek word behind every English word. Sometimes those English words are added just to help you understand the meaning of the passage. Other times they're implied from Greek somewhere else in the sentence. And sometimes you just look at what the passage says and go, people are going to misunderstand, so we need to translate what it means, and so we're going to help the reader. We are to look after ourselves. We are to work out our salvation with fear and trembling. We are to look at how we are being obedient to the teaching of Scripture. We are to look at how we are loving God, but not exclusively. We are also to be looking out after the interests of others.